breaking ball and a call. Strike three. Third strikeout for Zach.
He's going to just watch it go. A grand slam for Bryson Stott.
And there's a high fly ball. Deep right field. Harper watches it fly.
From WHYY, it is Hittin' season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Phight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, Phillies take 2 out of 3 from the Orioles, dominating the first 2 games, but cannot pull off the sweep in the getaway game on Wednesday, missing another opportunity to sweep a team. And we're going to get into the fact that it has been quite a while for this team, the last time they swept an opponent. In fact, they've had a lot of opportunities this year, but haven't been able to pull the final game out in the vast majority of those games. Is that a big deal? Is that something we should be worried about, talking about, concerned about? Or is it just like a funny thing? We'll talk a little Phillies outfield too. Max Kepler with a big game on Tuesday. We'll do a little Taijuan Walker appreciation post. We'll talk a little Rangers Suarez. And coming up in just a little bit, I'm going to talk with Tom Housenick, sports reporter for the Morning Call up in Lehigh Valley. We'll talk a little Iron Pigs. I want to get some intel on Andrew Painter, Justin Crawford, and Aaron Nola as he is making rehab starts. In fact, made a rehab start on Wednesday night. So we'll talk to Tom about how Aaron looked, how Andrew has been looking, whether or not Justin's ready to come up. Lots to get to here on this edition of Hittin' Season. But let's jump right into this thing here. The Phillies losing to the Orioles on Wednesday 5-1. The offense had some opportunities. They got a lot of guys on base in the game here on Wednesday, but we're not able to push across that run. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, a number of opportunities to get runners home, but just weren't able to get that big hit, the Phillies. All during the week against the Orioles, they were getting big hit after big hit, but 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position on Wednesday afternoon as the Phillies fall to the Orioles 5-1 and miss a chance to sweep Baltimore out of Philadelphia. They do win 2 out of 3 thanks to their 5-0 win on Tuesday night, and of course the 13-3 blowout that we talked about on the Roundtable edition of the podcast. The last time the Phillies swept an opponent was a month ago, June 13th through the 15th against the Blue Jays. During this all-interleague run, however, the Phillies are doing pretty well against the American League. They have won 4 out of the 6 series that they've played against American League teams here, winning series against the Red Sox, against the Yankees, against the Tigers, and the Orioles, and they lost 2 series to the White Sox and the Angels, 2 of the teams you would have thought they would have won series against. And there is 1 more interleague series left in this gauntlet. The Phillies are traveling this weekend to Texas to take on the Rangers for a 3-game series in the Lone Star State. We'll see how the Phillies are able to finish up this interleague spree. But 14 times this year, the Phillies have won the first 2 games of a series with a chance to sweep. 14 times the Phillies entered the final game, the getaway day, or the final game of a series, having won the first 2 games with a chance to sweep, and they have won 5 of those games. They have 5 sweeps under their belts this year. Now, look, I get it. I mentioned this stat on X, and people, you win series. That's how you. Yes, if you win every series, you will win well over 100 games. There's no doubt about it. 2 out of 3 is a .570 winning percentage. So as at Sir Putz-a-Lot on X noted to me, the Phillies are currently playing to a win percentage of .570. If they win 2 out of 3 for the rest of the season, they will finish with 97 wins and win the World Series. But they will not win 2 out of 3 the rest of the season. I grant you, winning 2 out of 3, winning series is the ultimate goal. And if you win 2 out of every 3 games, you will finish with 106 wins. That's really good. But here's the thing: you're not going to win every series. You're going to lose some series, right? So when you have the opportunity to pull off a sweep, it's nice to do it. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and kill the Phillies for not being able to pull off a sweep of the Orioles. Can't win them all. I get all that. But I think, 14 opportunities to finish off a sweep after winning the first 2 games, and you only finish the sweep 5 times. That just seems a little low to me. I would have expected maybe half the time. Maybe half the time. 2 more of those series. You get 2 more series sweeps. But as it is, the Phillies are 2.5 games up on the Mets, for first place in the National League East. The Mets have really hit the skids. They were almost no-hit by the Cleveland Guardians on Wednesday afternoon. Came within 2 outs of being no-hit. A Juan Soto home run in the bottom of the ninth was the only run the Mets would score in that game. They got swept by the Guardians. So the Phillies, with their healthiest lead in quite some time in the National League East, but they are still trailing the other teams in the National League, the other division leaders as of right now. You have the Phillies as the 3rd seed in the National League. They are just a half a game behind the Dodgers. The Dodgers at 66-49, the Phillies at 65-49. The Milwaukee Brewers right now are running away with the number 1 seed. They are 70-44, the first team to 70 wins, 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 6 in a row. They have a 3.5 game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central. The Brewers, a 4-game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central. Break up the Brewers, for crying out loud. I still don't know about that team as a postseason team. I don't think they have quite enough power. I'm not so sure, but I mean, they got a good starting rotation. The bullpen's there. That's a good team. It's a good team. I don't know if their formula is going to work in the playoffs, but we will see. The Phillies with a 2.5 game lead, though, in the National League East. They are the 3rd seed, so they would play in that opening round. But we've talked about whether or not, to me, it doesn't matter if the Phillies play in the wild card round or they get to skip it. I would prefer them to go straight to the divisional round. I still think getting one of the top 2 seeds is an important thing to do, but we've seen this team advance playing in the wild card round and not advance by skipping it. So I don't think it really makes a difference, is my point. I'm not stressing about it one way or the other. I do want to get the home games. That's kind of, that would be if you're going to play the wild card round, get the home games. Finishes wild card 1 or the 3rd division winning team. That's kind of where the Phillies are right now. A big win on Tuesday night for the Phils, and it was really the other guys. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper have been pacing this offense, with JT Realmuto also, and Trey Turner had been in a nasty struggle until Wednesday's game. One of the few guys on Wednesday to actually get on base a lot and hit well. 3 hits in the game for JT Realmuto. A single, double, triple. Was just a home run away from the cycle on Wednesday, but the rest of the lineup really struggled in the game. I don't know what it was about Baltimore left-hander Trevor Rogers, but he and the rest of Baltimore's relievers were just befuddling the Phillies with changeups all day long. And so this was one of those games where you watch it and you say to yourself, I hope that other teams don't pick up on this. Like, you wonder, are teams going to start throwing the Phillies a steady diet of changeups? Are we back to that, where the Phillies suddenly there's a book out on them? I'm worried that the Baltimore Orioles put out a book on the Phillies on Wednesday, because I can't remember the lineup looking as befuddled by just changeups. They didn't know what to do with them. They were in between all day long. So I'm hoping this doesn't become a trend where pitchers look at the Phillies lineup and it's just one changeup after another, and these guys don't know what to do with it. That happens with this group sometimes. We saw that last year with getting them to chase out of the strike zone. That hasn't been as big a problem this year, but the changeups on Wednesday were a little bit off-putting. But Trey Turner had a good day against the changeups and against Baltimore pitching, but he was the only one. But on Tuesday night, in the 5-0 game, a couple of heroes for the Phillies in this one. We'll start offensively, and of course, the talk after the game was Max Kepler. Kepler's inclusion in the starting lineup during these 6 games since the trade deadline has been infuriating to those of us who cannot understand why he hasn't been designated for assignment yet. But Rob Thompson continues to say he promised all of his outfielders that it would be a straight platoon for 6 days following the trade deadline, and then they would go from there. Well, we've reached that point now. And I don't know if Max Kepler's big game on Tuesday was enough to keep him on the roster, but if there was going to be one last gasp for Max Kepler, it was on Tuesday. He crushed a 2-run home run in the second inning. He also doubled in the game. It was his first game with multiple extra base hits since March 31st, which I don't have to explain to you how long ago that was. Brandon Marsh also with a big game on Tuesday. Like Kepler, he hit a double and a home run. So with Max Kepler, I have been hard on Max Kepler just because I didn't like the signing right from the offseason. We've talked about that a lot on the podcast. I really feel like I was kind of beating the drum because it never made any sense. And so I don't root for players not to succeed. I've wanted Max Kepler to play well all season. I have no problem looking stupid and being, when I'm dead wrong about a player, just when you have an intuition and it doesn't work out, fillet me. I hope Max Kepler I had hoped he was going to turn it around all season long. He did say something after the game that I thought was interesting, talking about Phillies fans booing him. Booing is their love language, he said. There's a fair amount of truth to what Max Kepler has to say about booing being Phillies fans' love language. I will say when it comes to booing, I don't think Phillies fans in general boo for no reason. We don't boo people because of the way they look. We might boo them because of something that they say that we deem inappropriate or, sports offensive. I'm not going to say offensive because there's truly offensive things people can say to other people in the world. But, an offensive sports thing is like calling fans front runners or something like that. And that's not what Max Kepler did. But that's one of the reasons why you would boo a player is if they say something that's sports offensive to you as a fan. Saying booing is their love language, that's not insulting to Phillies fans. There is a kernel of truth, and it is a large kernel. That's how we show displeasure. It's how we show dissatisfaction. And that dissatisfaction, that displeasure bubbles to the surface probably more often for us than it does for other fan bases. There is no issue with booing Max Kepler when there's runners on first and second and he hits into a double play, or he pops a ball up to shortstop, or he strikes out, or he does something unproductive. The numbers certainly bear it out. He's hitting just over 200 this year. Max Kepler, 204 with a 661 OPS. Those are booable numbers. And earlier, a couple of months ago, saying that he was struggling because he wasn't getting more regular playing time, that he was promised a starting role on the team, tone-deaf comments. But you also realize that when a player is getting booed, there's a person there. There is a person who's getting booed, and it affects them. And one of the things that Max Kepler has said about himself is that he's a perfectionist, that he overanalyzes. That's a bad combination in Philadelphia. That was one of the things that got Mike Schmidt in trouble. He would oftentimes get into slumps where he would overanalyze and he would overthink things, and really took the booing to heart by Phillies fans. The Mike Schmidt documentary that MLB Network did earlier this year really tells that tale to a T, and I think there's a fair amount of that in Max Kepler as well. When he's not succeeding, there is a constant obsession with trying to get it right, trying to get it figured out. I think with Max Kepler, his heart is in the right place most of the time, and he's been trying. But it has been interesting to watch how this team has dealt with him, and it's hard to understand how he's managed to stay on the team past the trade deadline. Scott Lauber noted in an article for the Philadelphia Inquirer that came out on Wednesday that the Phillies still owe Max Kepler about $3 million through season's end, and some people have wondered, is that why he's still on the team? The Phillies don't want to pay him for not playing, but they, as Scott noted, they swallowed more money last year when they dumped Whit Merrifield. So I don't think it's the money. For whatever reason, they have wanted to keep Max Kepler around, and they haven't wanted to bring up Justin Crawford. And so here Max Kepler is, still getting starts against right-handed pitching. And when you're a left-hander, you're going to get the majority of the starts if you are platooning. And Max Kepler has played a lot this year. He may not have started every day, but he has played a lot. And it has been a struggle. Now, one of the things you hear Rob Thompson saying and other Phillies coaches saying is that Max Kepler actually has been hitting the ball well. He just doesn't have the results to show for it. Well, I'm looking at Baseball Savant's page, and there is some truth to those rumors. His 90.9 mile an hour average exit velocity ranks in the 69th percentile. That's above league average, as is his barrel percentage of 11.3%. That ranks in the 68th percentile. His hard hit percentile of 45.3% ranks in the 61st percentile. So again, all of those numbers are above average. But his sweet spots percentage of 33.2% is in the 34th percentile, so not good. His bat speed is in the 40th percentile, 71.4 miles per hour, not good. His chase rate of 26.5% is in the 54th percentile, but, decent with whiff rate, decent with strikeout rate. His walk rate is in the 75th percentile. Some of these underlying metrics really aren't working in his favor. So is there some bad luck going on? Yes, there is some. There is some bad luck going on. But when you're hitting 204 over 360 plate appearances with a 295 on base and a 366 slugging percentage, sometimes all of those StatCast numbers, the barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, bat speed, squared up percentage, they tell part of a story, but at the end of the day, you have to produce. And Max Kepler hasn't produced. Listening to him talk after the game on Tuesday, he was interviewed by the broadcast because he was the big hero, and he has not had many opportunities to be in that spotlight. And you just know that it hurts the guy to be the center of everyone's ire in Philadelphia. That can't feel good. That can't feel good. He's been the center of our ire here on this podcast. And I don't know how much longer Max Kepler has on the Phillies. I don't know how much longer he's going to be here. I think however long he's here, I am going to refrain from piling on. I'll analyze his play. If he plays poorly, as long as he's here, if he's making outs at the plate and costing the team runs, we're going to talk about it. But it's going to be fair. And watching him talk after the game on Tuesday, it makes you realize there's a human being there that's dealing with knowing he's having a disappointing season, that's dealing with the booing. And I'm not going to pile on. And I don't know if he's going to be on this team for much longer. I could see a role if they don't want to bring up Justin Crawford, if they really don't think Justin Crawford is ready, whether it's defensively or at the plate, and they want to keep Max Kepler on this team, I think that's fine, but he should just be a bench bat. A guy coming off the bench like a Jeff Jenkins in 2008. Let him be that guy. Let's just play Harrison Bader in center every day. Let's play Brandon Marsh in left every day, and let's play Nick Castellanos in right every day. You always wanted Brandon Marsh to be an everyday player. He's actually hitting really well over the course of the last couple of months. Just let him play every day. Let Harrison Bader play every day. Let Nick Castellanos play every day. Let's see what this offense can do with three regular outfielders. And then you've got Weston Wilson and Max Kepler to come off the bench. You only owe Max Kepler $3 million. For a bench guy, that's fine. That's fine. You just pay that the rest of the way. And Harrison Bader was back in the lineup on Wednesday against the left-hander. That's how really, if you're not going to call up Justin Crawford, and I can understand not calling him up. If you just want to give these three guys the shot, then give those three guys the shot. Let it be Bader, Marsh, and Castellanos from here on out. And let's see how it goes. Taijuan Walker, a terrific performance from him on Tuesday afternoon. One of the unsung heroes of this season. Kind of reminds me of the season Bailey Falter had for this team back in 2022. You remember Bailey Falter coming up from the minors when Zach Wheeler went down and managed to hold things together. He held the rotation together for the better part of a month while Zach Wheeler was out. And then Wheeler comes back. He's effective. They keep Falter in the rotation, and he has an excellent season. Bailey Falter started Game 4 of the National League Championship Series against the Padres. Remember that? He got blown up. That game got blown up early. Got two outs in the first inning and then gave up 4 runs. But there were no expectations for Taijuan Walker coming into this season. The only expectations for Taijuan Walker were low expectations. He has far exceeded any expectations anyone could have had for him here in 2025. 6 innings on Tuesday, and it's the Baltimore offense, I get it, but 6 innings of shutout baseball, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, no walks for Taijuan Walker, and his stuff looked pretty good. An outstanding performance from him on Tuesday night. 24 games, 13 starts for Walker this year, a 4-5 record, and a 3.53 ERA. In 79 innings this year, he has a 1.25 ERA+. He's been 25% better than the league average pitcher. And a 1.304 whip is outstanding. He's been worth 1.3 wins above replacement this year. Last year, he was negative 1.6 wins above replacement. A drastic and dramatic turnaround. It's a change of nearly 3 wins above replacement when you do the math. And it's really difficult to ask a pitcher who has been a starter his whole career to start the season in the rotation, then everybody gets healthy. And so you're going to go back to the bullpen. And then Aaron Nola goes down. So now it's Taijuan Walker's back in the starting rotation. Being toggled back and forth like this is really difficult. And Taijuan Walker, he may have earned himself a spot on the postseason roster as a reliever, because he really is pitching pretty darn well. I had absolutely zero expectations for Taijuan Walker this season, and we haven't talked about him very much here on the podcast. He really has been good. Let's use the word. He's been good. This has been again, one of those unsung heroes that during the course of a potentially championship season, you look back on and you're like, that's right, Taijuan Walker was a stud for us in the regular season. And I don't mean stud by Cy Young contender like Christopher Sanchez or Zach Wheeler, but a stud in that you're asking this guy to do all kinds of crazy things. And for the most part, he's done it all really well. So Taijuan Walker, a hat tip to you, my friend. One other guy I want to talk about before we get to Tom Housenick here, Ranger Suarez. Kind of a mystery right now, old Ranger. Sanchez went 6 1/3 innings, 9 hits allowed, 5 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. He did allow a home run. I think Rob Thompson left him in 1 inning too long. Rob has not had a good feel for that as of late. He also left Zach Wheeler in a game an inning too long in the previous series against the Tigers. Really, Suarez should have been out after 6 innings, and they just should have turned it over to Romano right there. But they decided to let Ranger Suarez come out and try to get a few more outs in the 6th inning. The pitch count was low. He was under 90 pitches at that point, so I guess you could understand it. He had 1 bad inning. The RAV4 4th inning got him. He was really befuddling Baltimore hitters until that 4th inning when he gave up 4 straight hits to start off the 4th inning. The final bit of damage being done with a 3-run home run by Kobe Mayo, but other than that, innings 1, 2, 3, and 5 and 6, he was pretty good. So Rob Thompson decided to try and send him out for a 7th inning, and that didn't quite work. Now, it ultimately wouldn't have mattered. The Phillies offense was dormant on Wednesday afternoon. But with Ranger Suarez, he's just kind of been all over the place lately. As dialed in as he was for that, 14-start stretch coming back from the injured list, it's been a little bit of a wild ride. I just read to you the numbers from Wednesday. In his last start against Detroit, went 7 innings, gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walks. A very good outing. Really, the only damage was a 3-run home run in that game as well. In New York against the Yankees, 5 2/3 innings, gave up 7 hits, but just 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, and 1 walk in that game. So he's been giving up a bunch of hits lately, but dancing between the raindrops in a couple of those starts. Against the Angels, couldn't dance between the raindrops. 4 1/3 innings, 6 earned runs allowed, 9 hits with 4 strikeouts and 4 walks. Against the Padres, better, 6 2/3, 3 runs on 7 hits, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks. But he has given up 3 earned runs or more in 4 of his last 5 starts. He had given up 3 earned runs in 2 of his first 12 starts, and none in starts 4 through 12. All less than 3 earned runs in starts 4 through 12. So here's what's so confounding about Ranger. You see how dominant he can be. When he gets dialed in, he can be one of the most dominating pitchers in all of baseball. We saw it in the first half of last year. We saw it in the first half of this year. But I think this is kind of more what he is. And so I really do wonder what he's going to get on the open market. I don't think you sign him or give him money as a top of the rotation starter. I think these are the type of numbers you would expect from a decent number 3, like a low-end number 3, high-end number 4 type pitcher. I don't know if we're going to see the dominant Ranger again this year. I think he's healthy, which is good. We're a little concerned about his health. Just seemed like he was kind of losing some of his effectiveness. I think his effectiveness is still there, but he's lost some of the command on his pitches, especially he got that 3-run home run was a blasted changeup right down the middle of the plate. Just on a tee for Kobe Mayo, and he did not miss it. Just a couple mistake pitches here and there. And when you don't throw mid to upper 90s, you have to be really fine with your stuff. And Ranger in the 4th inning was not fine with his stuff. And we've seen him have some blow-up innings here over his last few starts when the command leaves him just a little bit. He's been giving up lots of hits, but striking some guys out. Hasn't been giving up a ton of walks, especially in his last 3 starts. He's been avoiding the base on balls. So yeah, I don't really know what Ranger Suarez's market is going to be. He's going to get big money deals. He's going to get multi-year deals. But I think there was a thought maybe he was earning himself a mega paycheck in those starts 2 through 12 this year. And I don't think we're going to see that with him. So maybe it makes it possible for the Phillies to re-sign him. If you're the Phillies, would you want to re-sign Ranger Suarez? I mean, we'll kind of see. There's a couple of months here to finish out, and October. I think he's absolutely going to get an opportunity to show what he can do as a starter in October. But again, that all does remain to be seen. Well, joining me right now to chat a little bit about what we're seeing down in Lehigh Valley, specifically with 4 players who could make an impact on the 2025 Phillies as they try to outrace the Mets for the top spot in the National League East, but also just get a little bit of a conversation about what he's seen down with the AAA team this year, is Tom Housenick. He's a sports writer for The Morning Call, old friend of the podcast. Been a while since we've had him on, but we're going to chat with him about the Iron Pigs, and we're going to talk about some of the players that we've been expecting to see in the majors for a little while now and kind of get a little bit of an intelligence report on that. Tom, welcome back to Hittin' Season. How are you?
Good, sir. How you been, John?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to talk to you again. I know it's been a while. We talked a lot during the rebuild time when really the only interesting thing about the Phillies what was happening down in the minors. And I got to say, for the AAA team, a lot of intrigue, a lot of eyeballs on the Iron Pigs this year, specifically for 2 of their top prospects, Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford. I do want to talk about Aaron Nola and David Robertson coming up in just a couple of seconds and just get an update from you on where their rehab is for Nola, where David Robertson is as far as ramping up. But let's talk a little Andrew Painter, because the expectation by the Phillies at the beginning of the season was that he would just mow through the minor leagues like he has done everywhere else, and that joining the Phillies in some capacity would be a fait accompli by July-ish. I think that's what those words exactly, July-ish, is about when he would be up in the majors. It's August 7th. He's not in the majors yet. And based on the numbers that we're seeing from down in Lehigh Valley and some of the reports we're getting from Lehigh Valley, Painter has not been nearly as sharp with the Iron Pigs as he has been throughout his minor league career so far. So what are you seeing from Andrew Painter since he's come to AAA?
What we're seeing is a guy who's missed 2 years. We've seen the electric stuff that we saw prior to that got him up to AA pretty darn quick. We've seen 2-3 innings like that, and then we see that 1 inning where all of a sudden it's simply location. And he's as frustrated as anybody, but he has great perspective, and I have to give him credit for this. He's the first one to tell you, look, I'm not ready. I'm still figuring things out. I'm still working on consistency. I'm still learning about how hitters are now ambushing me, knowing that I throw a lot of strikes. So not sitting there and waiting for a 2-strike pitch that is going to be my pitch and not their pitch. He's learning. He's still learning. He's still a kid. We still have to understand that he's still a young guy who has missed 2 years of learning and growing. And he doesn't have that same velocity, maybe, and the consistent velocity that we saw when he hit AA. It's there, and it's just not there for what we've seen 5 or 6 innings now for the last several starts. He pitched through 2 games, probably midway through. He pitched through 2 games where he had a blister, so he didn't have use of a couple of pitches. A lot of guys would just say, "Hey, look, I'm going to shut it down for 10 days until I can throw all my pitches." But he just figured this is a time to work on my other pitches. I'm going to go out there and see what I can do with those 2 pitches, see how I can kind of maneuver my way through. There were some struggles, but it was no different than we've seen from any of his other starts when he's had access to all those pitches. So, again, I just see a really smart kid who is still figuring things out, who's still trying to get himself back to where he was with the consistency of all of his pitches before the injury.
And I think for Phillies fans, expectations got warped by what frankly happened 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, ahead of the 2023 season, when as a 19-year-old, almost 20-year-old, people were talking about Andrew Painter. Dave Dombrowski was talking about Andrew Painter being on the big league team at some time that season. And then, of course, you had the Tommy John surgery, and everybody's been awaiting his return. So it feels like everybody just wanted to pick up right where they left off at the start of the 2023 season. But you mentioned it. He has not pitched. It was 2 years between minor league starts, even probably more than that, because it was the end of the 22 season and then the beginning of the 25 season when he's back pitching in the minor leagues. I know he pitched in the Arizona Fall League coming into this season, but it really a long time. And Andrew Painter is a young guy who is still kind of, I reading some of the articles. I know Charlotte Barnes and The Athletic had a good article about him on Wednesday. Learning how to pitch, like he's learning how to kind of set up hitters, learning how to use his different pitches, and he's pitching deeper into games than he ever has before, right? They're getting him up over 100 pitches per game. So you talked about the constant velocity not being there. My guess would be, and please refute me if it's not correct, but that he's not necessarily gassing it out every pitch because he is trying to build innings, because he is trying to learn how to pitch when he's got a budget 90 to 100 pitches per game.
No question. And the most important thing is his body is responding to this pressure that he's putting on himself for the first time in more than 2 years. Again, a lot of guys and a lot of the good hitters, we saw some quality at bats by Spencer Jones, one of the Yankees' top prospects. We've seen those two battle each other a couple times in the last month. And he had to tip his cap. He said, I threw 5 good pitches to Spencer Jones. He fouled 4 of them off, and he hit the other one off the wall in left center field for a double. He felt like he made quality pitches. Sometimes the hitters are getting them. And again, that's not always the case in Double-A. People want to say there's not a lot of difference between Double-A and Triple-A. Again, the maturity of the hitters is definitely noticeable, and he's found a way to figure out that, hey, look, if I throw 98 just to get ahead in the count, and again, his fastball doesn't have a lot of movement to it. So if I just groove a 98 in there, these guys are ready to hit it right off the bat. I can't just assume that they're going to sit there and take strike one and then work into the count. So he's figuring that out. There was a time in one of the innings, a couple of starts back against the Rail Riders, where they just ambushed him. I mean, they must have swung at 5 first pitches. And again, it wasn't all fastballs. He's not just trying to load up on a fastball early in counts to get ahead, but they were just ready for pitches that they knew were going to be in the strike zone or right there, that were hittable. So he didn't see that in Double-A, in 2022. So again, he's seeing guys that have the talent that he has, and now he's trying to not only get himself back to where he believes he would have been at the end of 22 and start of 23, but he's figuring out a way that, look, these hitters are smart too. They're not just going to say, okay, this guy's throwing 98, I'm going to let it go, or I'm going to sit on one of his off-speed pitches until I get 2 strikes. They're just looking for that first really good pitch because they know he's not one of those guys who throws hard and is wild and loses command. When he loses command, it's just the center of the plate as opposed to one of the outside quadrants that is where he's obviously most pitches are most effective. So again, they're just waiting for that one good quality pitch, and the minute they see it, they're hitting it, or at least going after it. So again, he's a smart kid. He's very mature. He has not panicked whatsoever when he's had a rough start. Obviously, his most recent start, his rough inning came right off the bat in the first inning against the Rail Riders, who were one of the best teams in Triple-A. So again, though, what has impressed me is that when he's had that one inning, whether it's come in the first inning, the fourth, the fifth, whatever, he has found a way to get out of that inning. Sure, it's a crooked number, but he's not getting the bullpen working in the third or fourth inning and having to come out. I think we saw that, and again, not to pick on Mick Abel's development, but we saw that a lot last year with Mick Abel in Triple-A. He couldn't find his way out of those innings. Yeah. He'd give up 4 or 5, and the manager would have to come get him. Painter's finding a way to get out of those innings I would say almost every time. And then he puts up a shutout inning or 2 after that. So he is finding a way to get to the 6th or 7th inning now with regularity, even though he's still having that one hiccup inning.
We've seen that on the Major League team over the last few weeks with Ranger Suarez and Zach Wheeler. I mean, that happens to the best of them at the Major League level. Absolutely. Ranger Suarez on Wednesday gives up that 4-run 4th inning and really limits the damage until he's brought back out for the 7th. So he did a good job after that crooked inning and before that crooked inning. Those ambush innings, they suck to watch, but they do happen. So last thing on Andrew Painter here. You mentioned just a second ago that he doesn't feel like he's ready for the majors, like that he has indicated, I'm not ready yet. Do you get the sense that, and I have a piece coming out for the Good Fight about this on Thursday, that he shouldn't be called up to the majors unless it's like a late September call up after the minor league season is over, but that he should stay in the minors? We should, as Phillies fans, lose the expectation that Andrew Painter is going to come to the major leagues and take part in a 6-man starting rotation, or that he'll be inserted into the bullpen at the end of the season. I think Dombrowski has mostly thrown a lot of cold water on that notion, but maybe left the door open a crack for something like that. Based on what you're describing, I don't see that for him here this year.
No, I think I would not even even consider calling him up this year. I think once, and maybe they have a number already in mind about how many innings they want him to throw this year. And I think once he hits that, have a seat.
Yeah.
Great job. I think there was development this year. And if you want to call him up and let him sit in the bullpen and watch and experience the major leagues for 10 days or whatever, be my guest. But please do not, put him into a situation where you want him to make a start or two, or, God forbid, pitching out of the bullpen. I think this has been a great year of development for him, and I think let's just move on to 2026.
Yeah, exactly where I am on him, too. Let's talk a little Justin Crawford. Obviously, the hue and cry from Phillies fans is for him to be called up. And based on the numbers, at least offensively, we kind of know what he is. He's a ground ball machine type guy with a lot of speed. I think there's still some questions about the defense, and I want to get your thoughts on his performance in center field. I know he's played a little bit of left field too, which is kind of eye-opening. But why do you think it is that he hasn't been called up to the majors yet? Is there anything left for him to do down in AAA?
I think that he needs to be more polished, and I'm glad you mentioned his defense as well, because I think there's clearly work to be done in every aspect of his game. Again, another young kid experienced in AAA for the first time. He has a lot of talent. And he's a really smart kid, obviously, son of a major leaguer. He's got a lot of great instincts that you can't really teach. But there are things that are clearly, not polished at the plate, in the field, on the bases. And I think we've seen progress, which is why we've seen him not have a significant slump all season. I think he had one 5-game stretch where he went 1 for 16 in the middle of July, but he still got on base with 5 or 6 walks in that stretch. So I think he's found a way to be consistent at the plate while still trying to figure some things out. He still has issues, attacking some pitches when, he thinks he's going to get a mistake to hit. He's, gets himself into some falling down situations, almost the way he swings so hard and the way he tries to attack a ball. Yeah. But he's a really smart kid, and he's just, and to go back to the Painter question, I think you were doing him an injustice if you even consider calling him up at all this year. There's still development to be done in these last 5 or 6 weeks of the AAA season. I think he's gotten a lot out of it. He's played virtually every day the entire season, and again, you want to talk about 2026 and put him in the conversation in the majors, I think that's more than fair. But I just don't think he's ready for that call up at this point in this season.
Let me move on to Aaron Nola. He made another rehab start on Wednesday night. The reports are that he looked pretty good. It wasn't a 100% clean pitching line for him, but I'm sure that's not exactly what he's concerned about at the moment. What have you seen from Aaron Nola in his couple of starts down there for his rehab down in Lehigh Valley?
I think there's definitely a clear improvement between start 1 and start 2. His first inning last night, again, threw a lot of pitches in the first inning, and Scranton Wilkes-Barre has some guys who were knocking on the door of the major leagues themselves who had some really good at-bats against him. They light up a couple of tough knuckle curves that he threw with 2 strikes that a lot of AAA hitters would have just flailed at. But again, they found a way. It happened to be a couple of them happened to come on 3-2 pitches. So they crowded the bases, but he figured a way to get out of the inning, and then that was really the only hiccup. The last 3 innings, he was in control, and he found ways to get them to chase those pitches that were just out of the zone or looked like they were good pitches to start. And he used all his pitches. His velocity sat 91, 92 most of the time, which was a little better than what it was the first start. And he said, body wise, after his first start, he felt perfectly fine. Didn't feel anything differently this time. I think he just felt more comfortable throwing all of his pitches from the stretch and from the windup throughout his 3 2/3 innings last night. So I think it was a good step forward for him.
How close do you think he is to being done a rehab assignment? One more start down there?
I think when he starts Tuesday in Buffalo, barring any physical setbacks, I think that'll be it for him. I think he'll be good to go. I think he threw about 70 pitches last night. So if they stretch him out into the 80s again on Tuesday, I think that'll be a good sign, and I think he'll be good to go. He did everything he didn't look like he was fighting his mechanics at any point,
That's good.
Which I think there was a little bit of that in his first start. It just looked like it was normal August start, even though obviously he's been shut down since May, but it just looked like he was comfortable on the mound throwing all his pitches, and his mechanics seemed to be fine. So I think that's a good sign.
All right, David Robertson, who has been working his way back to Major League shape. The team signed him as a free agent shortly before the trade deadline. He had a great year for Texas last year, was throwing 91-92 in his tryout for teams. Saw reports that he got his fastball up around 94 in his last appearance for Lehigh Valley. Looking at some of the box scores, some of the results, he got dinged around in his last couple of appearances before his most recent appearance. Where is David Robertson on the timeline? How much longer do you think he needs to cook in Lehigh Valley?
Well, I think if he gets 2 more outings like he did last night in Game 1 of the doubleheader, I think he'll be on the move. He looked really good last night. The velocity was up a couple of miles an hour. His location was fantastic with all of his pitches, and it was a quick 1-2-3 inning for him. Actually, he gave 1 hit, but struck out 2, and really looked smooth. Looked like the David Robertson that we had seen maybe the previous time, or we had seen in Texas even last year. It didn't look like he was somebody who was laboring, trying to find his way to get one more shot at the majors. He looked like he was pretty close to being ready to get up.
And I want to get your thoughts on the season as a whole for Lehigh Valley. And we've talked about, the two top prospects, Painter and Crawford. But who else on the Iron Pigs has had a season that you think is worth talking about, and maybe that Phillies fans should be keeping an eye on or an ear out for in 2026?
Well, this was an interesting roster makeup. We had a lot of veterans, guys who would have major league time with other teams who were looking for one last shot. Some have asked for their release and been granted 2 times. Mm-hmm. 2 more in recent weeks, but it was just interesting to watch Crawford and Painter, 2 really young kids around these veterans. Obviously Weston Wilson was here for a while, Buddy Kennedy was here for a while. Garrett Stubbs is still here, and I tell you, I think of all the guys I don't think anybody in the pitching side that kind of stood out that we might get excited about, but I think having Garrett Stubbs here for not only the pitchers but for the position players was just a fantastic experience. Nobody could speak more highly about him than anybody could. He has a way about I'd say commanding the clubhouse, but no matter how things were going, he had a pulse on how things should be, and just again was a great leader. Is a great leader. He's still there, obviously. Mm-hmm. And Nola couldn't praise him enough last night because he caught him in Game 1. Yeah. But again, Stubbs has kept himself ready. I think there was a point where he was a little fatigued because obviously when you're the backup catcher in the major leagues, you're not playing very often. Yeah. And he was playing a lot more than he had played in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think he got a little tired. Yeah. Obviously he's got a baby on the way. He's got a lot going on in his life, but he's kind of bounced back and looked a little better. His bats looked a little fresher. So God forbid if they ever need him. But one young guy that I think has kind of stuck out is a guy who's played a lot of right field in DH, Gabriel Conis. I saw him play a bit in AA, and again, the ball jumps off his bat. The problem was early on it wasn't hitting the bat a lot. But he, through that stretch of learning what these veteran pitchers were trying to do to him, he found a way to still work counts, get deep into counts, see a lot of pitches, and then just in the last couple of weeks it's finally paid off. His average has bumped up 25 points, which is obviously hard to do later in the season. He's always had a good eye, and I think he's among the league leaders in walks. But now he's found a way to kind of wait until he gets his pitches. He was a little wild with his swings early in counts and then kind of settled in when he gets 2 strikes, which is great to see for a young hitter. Yeah. But again, we've seen that maturity where now he's getting good pitches to hit, and he's not missing as many. He hit a lot of loud outs, even yesterday that weren't hits. But he's one guy who I was a little worried about. I thought, okay, there's a little bit of Dylan Cousins here. There's a lot of power. When that ball hits the bat, it really jumps, but there's a lot of swing and miss. And I think he's cut down on that swing and miss considerably since July, really. And it's encouraging to see. I mean, again, he's not major league ready, but I think he's kept himself in the conversation by developing really significantly the last couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, he was a popular name in spring training when he was hitting a lot of home runs, and, it's good to hear that report. I know facing left-handers has been a bugaboo for him throughout his minor league career, and that was one of the areas, too, that he needed to improve on as he was coming up.
No question.
Yeah,
no question. I mean, pitch recognition has gotten better. And, again, when you're facing a lefty, the ball's coming out all kind of angles and stuff, and, front shoulder flying out and that kind of stuff. We saw a lot of that early on. But, again, he's found a way to just he's made progress. I think that's the best way you can put it, and I think that's a good sign for the Phillies.
Well, Phillies fans have their eyes on the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. There's a lot going on in Lehigh Valley for Phillies fans to be concerned about, not worried about, but keeping an eye on, so we can get a sense of when Robertson and Nola will be on the big league club. And we'll see about Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford, whether they stay down there. But their development is obviously a big story for the Phillies this year and for 2026. Read all about the Iron Pigs by following Tom Housenick on X at Tom Housenick, senior writer for The Morning Call. Tom, thanks for coming back on Hittin' Season. I really appreciate it.
Glad to catch up, John. It's great to see you.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. I want to encourage you all to check out our YouTube channel. Now, here's the thing. The roundtable episodes of Hittin' Season can now be found on the WHYY YouTube page. So the roundtable podcasts that I do with Justin and Liz on Sunday night or Monday night, those will live on the WHYY YouTube site. But for the midweek podcast and the end of the week podcast, you can still find those on our Hittin' Season YouTube page. But I do want to encourage you to go over to the WHYY YouTube page, subscribe to the WHYY YouTube page, because not only will you find Hittin' Season there, you'll find all of the other really cool stuff that WHYY is doing. So make sure that you do that. Go to the WHYY YouTube page, subscribe, and then you'll get every roundtable edition of Hittin' Season when they come down the pike on Monday or Tuesday morning. Also, please tell your friends and family members about the Hittin' Season podcast. If you just listen to us on audio form, we're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcast. And you can always send us an email here at the Hittin' Season podcast, hittinseason@billypenn.com. Share your thoughts. Record a voice memo. I have gotten a voice memo, a couple voice memos in the email. We will play them at the next roundtable edition of the podcast or at my next midweek podcast. But have no fear. If you record a voice memo and you email it to hittinseason@billypenn.com, we will play it on the show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.